UFC 294 will be the best card of the year. There's no doubt about it. Surprise here, surprise there, but the UFC has done a fantastic job of picking up the pieces and making a mess a masterpiece. And I stand by that, and I will, even if the card is a bust. Like, this is just masterclass matchmaking at the last possible minute. So Alexander Volkanovski comes in on 11 days notice to fight Islam Makhachev for the second time. And these gentlemen met up earlier this year, and Islam Makhachev won. Took the double champ status or potential status from Alexander Volkanovski's hand. But now Alexander Volkanovski has an opportunity. Alexander Volkanovski has the opportunity of a lifetime, because he's coming into a championship fight, a potential double champ fight, on 11 days notice, with a newborn baby in his home, coming off a surgery that's just a couple months old as well, and no training camp against Islam Makhachev. Talk about an excuse. But that's not why Alexander Volkanovski does it, because this fight comes either way, if not now, later, and Alex could have had a full camp. But he says, no, this is an opportunity for me to prove myself as a champion, as a warrior, and to constantly challenge myself, because he always speaks about challenging himself, and he always gets the best from himself when he puts himself in situations like this. And I don't think a chance like this comes often. So yeah, a lot of people are saying now he has the excuse if he loses. But in reality, now you have the potential for greatness, and that's what he sees. He doesn't see the opportunity to, use it as an excuse later. What he sees is, hey, if I beat Islam Makhachev on 11 days notice with everything and how it went down and all these circumstances, I am the best there really is. I am the number one pound for pound, and no one has anything on me. And I'm a double champ. And I don't think you could really argue with that. That is world-class athlete, warrior mentality. If there's another David Goggins, here he is. So Alexander Volkanovski is prepping for Islam Makhachev. And now I got to give the credit to Islam too, because we're quick to praise Alexander Volkanovski. Islam Makhachev is taking on a guy who gave him the hardest fight of his life already. And he's taking that fight on 11 days notice. Yeah, he had a full camp right now. Yeah, he's in shape. But he's preparing for Charles Oliveira. You cannot compare Charles Oliveira and Alexander Volkanovski. Two completely different fights. So for those saying, oh, he's in shape, he has a camp, it's not the same thing. He takes as much of a risk, if not more of a risk. Because if Alex loses his fight, again, I don't think he uses all those circumstances as a crutch, but I think, fans do. Islam, on the other hand, if Islam loses his fight, what's the crutch? I didn't have a camp. There is no crutch for him. Islam has everything to lose and nothing to win. So him taking this fight is just as admirable as Alex Volkanovski taking this fight, because that last fight was absolute fireworks, and it was a test for both of those gentlemen. It was the best fight we've seen all year, and the biggest test for both of those guys in their career. So kudos to both of those guys for stepping into this position, stepping up to this position. But now let's get a breakdown. So Alexander Volkanovski, leaving that fight, left with a lot of confidence. And he obviously didn't get his hands raised, and that was disappointing. But he left with a ground and pound sequence of absolutely mawing Islam Makhachev. And I think he doesn't forget that. I don't think any of us forget that. Islam, on the other hand, leaves with the confidence of winning the fight. But of course, that voice behind him saying, man, did I really do enough? Did I kind of lose that fight? Because when we look at the stats, Islam wins that fight because of ground control time. And when we look at the ground control time and we really dissect that fight, Volk wasn't really in a lot of trouble. There was a time or two where we debatably say, that could have gotten close, but Volk looked pretty comfortable with Islam grappling with him, which is something we didn't expect. We said, if Charles Oliveira went down the way he did against Islam Makhachev, man, Volk can too. It wasn't the case at all. So I think stepping into this fight, it's a completely different mentality for both guys. I think Alex feels like he found the recipe for Islam Makhachev, where Islam Makhachev feels like, man, what I had for Volk was slipping at the end of that fight. Do I have to completely change my game plan? So I think it's going to be the biggest difference. Now, with all the circumstances surrounding Alex coming into this fight, I think there's going to be a completely different game plan. What I mean by that, Volkanovski had an elite pace, a world-class athlete pace against Islam Makhachev in that first fight. 25 minutes of sprinting, let's say. I don't think with the camp he has and the preparation time he has, even though he's still in shape, I do not think he could keep up with that pace again. And even though he looked better in the 4th and 5th rounds against Islam Makhachev, I think this fight's cut a lot shorter, and that's why I think this fight's going to be better. I think Alexander Volkanovski is going to finish this fight within the distance. I think I see Alex winning this by TKO, but I think it comes with more risk. And what I mean by that is you're going to see a lot less rigid of a fighter. You're going to see a fighter who's willing to get a little more comfortable against Islam Makhachev because now he feels he knows the recipe for victory against Islam Makhachev. But that comes with a price. When riskier approaches are brought up, you have that risk for the decline. You have the risk for being defeated. You have the risk of being caught. And that is what I think Volkanovski is going to gamble with a little more this fight. And that's why I think we're going to see more fireworks in this fight. You see that 7 minutes control time by Islam Makhachev and 3 minutes by Volk? You don't see ground control time. I don't think you see much. I think you see maybe 1 or 2 potential slip-ups, and Islam takes advantage, maybe gets you to the ground, maybe you have to find your way back up. But for the most part, I think we see more fireworks this fight. I think Alexander Volkanovski is going to take advantage of his confidence boost that he found and that little recipe he found at the end of the last fight, and he's going to use it to his advantage early. And in the first 2 rounds, we're really going to see where this fight is going. I think it's going to be all Alex Volkanovski early on in this fight. Now, I think Islam is actually going to have the edge in the later rounds this time, because I think Alex isn't going to have that endurance he had in that first fight for 4 or 5 rounds of greatness and elite pace. I think we're going to get that from Alex in the first 3 rounds. And I think if he avoids Islam's grappling, which he's shown that he can, and now he's going to have a few more tricks up his sleeve and a little experience against him, I think that Volkanovski gets a finish within the first 3 rounds. Islam, on the other hand, I think Islam to win this fight, it's going to be more cruise control. I think it's going to be not letting Volkanovski find those shots he could find, not letting him have that fast, comfortable pace that he could live in. I think once Islam limits that, if Islam is able to grapple early, if Islam is able to have grappling success, I think Volkanovski's in for 25 minutes of pain and hell. I think he's going to have a long fight against Islam Makhachev. However, I don't see that happening. So my official prediction for this fight is Alexander Volkanovski coming in hot, having a great first and second round, and I think he catches Islam Makhachev within 3 rounds. I see a TKO happening. Islam Makhachev face down on the canvas, and we're calling it a night, ladies and gentlemen. Alexander Volkanovski will be crowned a lightweight champion in the UFC this Saturday in Abu Dhabi, officially making him a double champ, the best featherweight on the planet, the #1 pound for pound ever to live, and debatably in the top 5 best UFC fighters of all time. Let me know what you think. Be sure to subscribe, guys. I'm the MMA Casual, and I'm here for the long haul.